Do you have a product that you want to sell internationally, but you just don't know how? Not feeling export ready? Well, I may have a solution for you. I'm Kalila Reynolds, and it's time for another episode of Money Moves, JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. This week, we'll be speaking with CEO of Benchmark Quality Management Solutions, Dr. Velton Gooden. He'll break down how you can become export ready. Hi, Dr. Gooden. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, Kalila, for inviting me to be on your show.
Yes. So before we get started, tell me a little bit about your background, because you have an interesting trajectory to Benchmark.
Yes. Well, my career actually started out at the Bureau of Standards back in the early 1990s. And then I left and I went to Grace Kennedy, where I progressed and became their quality assurance manager.
So you're actually a chemist.
I am.
So you've done all the testing, you know what needs to be, what the standards are in order to meet those international standards, and hence the name Benchmark, huh?
Benchmark, right. So it's really a play on standards, as we say in Jamaica, benchmark or the yardstick. So I've been in the field for a very long time, over 30 years. I've worked with big companies like Grace Kennedy. My most recent foray was with the CB Group, where I was head of quality and an export for the better part of 4 years. And then having kind of converted CB from a company that was locally based in terms of their focus and their products, introduced them to the concept of exporting. So when I started, they were doing less than 5 containers of export into the Caribbean. And when I left, they were doing 120 containers into 14 countries.
So I asked all of that to give you that background, to give us that background so that people can know you know your stuff. You know your stuff. So tell me what Benchmark specializes in now. You've been doing this for the past 2-3 years with Benchmark Quality Management Solutions.
Yes. Well, Benchmark really is an outsourced partner for quality, food safety, and related management systems. And what we do, we help companies to become internationally competitive by the implementation and certification to world-class standards. So basically, that's what we do.
How do you do that?
Well, it's a fairly simple process. At the start, when we are engaged by our clients, what we do is we pay them a visit. We'd like to see, what they're doing and how much of the required system they actually have in place. And we follow that up with what we call a gap analysis. It's no different from when you visit with your doctor for the first time. They check you to see where you are, what are the basic things, symptoms that you have. And then what we'll generally do is give them a report to say, okay, this is where you are, this is what is required to get you into the international marketplace. And so what we give them after that is just a proposal to walk them step by step as to what they need to do to get to be globally competitive and to be certified to one of these systems. So it's a process. It involves training, documentation of their standard operating procedures, and being sure that they're able to meet the requirements of the marketplace that they're targeting.
So would you say those are the things that makes a business export ready?
Absolutely. If you're interested in exporting to a particular country, then what will happen, you'd identify a purchaser in that country, and based on the type of products that you're seeking to export, that purchaser would touch base with the regulator of that country to issue what is called an import permit. And in that import permit, it sets out all the requirements that you have to meet in order to export to that country. And that import permit usually requires you to have certain quality standards, food safety standards, and what we call sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. And those include, of course, also label requirements. So that's where we come in, because usually many small companies, MSME companies, they grapple to meet these basic requirements.
Yeah.
And so since we have that expertise, we're able to walk them along to get there.
That's a very important expertise to lend, because I know, for example, getting into the US market, you have all these regulations from the FDA, the
Yes.
Food and Drug Administration,
Yes.
and it might seem like overwhelming. Like, is it even possible for me to meet them? You're saying that benchmark can help with that.
Yes. And actually, that's what we have been busy doing. At the beginning of 2020, just before the pandemic, we actually worked with two small exporters who are basically exporting pimento and other Jamaican spices to the US. Now, in 2011, the US introduced what is called the Food Safety Modernization Act. And that basically requires that all exporters of food to the US market meet certain basic food safety requirements. And they follow that up by actually doing plant inspection, to make sure that they're meeting those requirements to protect the consuming public in the US. So they actually had visits, and you can just imagine you're a small exporter and the FDA sends an inspector to check you out to make sure. So they reached out to us, and what we did, we prepared them. And so they were able to be successful in those inspections, and now they're continuing their export business into the US.
Lovely. And you've actually done this for several local businesses.
Absolutely.
Most recently, give me some examples.
Well, just last week, we helped the biggest fertilizer manufacturer, not just in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean, become ISO 9000 certified. So very soon that will be in the public domain, but they have actually successfully completed their certification process, and they're now aiming to leverage that certification to access even more markets.
Okay, so it's not just food products that you do this for?
No. We're into manufacturing as well. And when we say food, we cover everything from primary production all the way to shipping and distribution and everything in between. So as we say in the industry, from farm to fork.
So you're going to do the testing to make sure the standards are up to scratch?
Well, as of now, we don't have a testing lab, but what we do, we work with partners who do the testing, and then we're able to interpret those test results and then use them in development of these systems.
But you can tell me what tests I need to take and point me in the right direction.
Absolutely, because different markets require different things.
Right.
If you're going into, say, the UK, you need to do a declaration of your best before, right?
A declaration of what?
Your best before use.
Best before?
Right.
Best
so that's
before.
the equivalent to the shelf life in the US.
Right.
Right. So you need to know, okay, how long will this product be on the shelf before it's no longer suitable for consumption? And if you're going into the US, basic requirement is that the nutritionals of the food has to be declared on the label. So the fat, protein, trans fat, and all of that stuff needs to be done. So we'll guide you as to what you need to test and what you need to have declared before you can enter into those markets.
These are very important things to know. My goodness. What is the most difficult market to get into?
As of now, I think the EU market.
The EU?
Yes.
Why is it so much more difficult?
They have a ton load of requirements, and apart from that, so they have the EU requirements, and that's overlaid over the country-specific requirements. So in addition to meeting the generic EU requirements, sometimes you have to drill down further and meet the country requirements.
But I thought we had all kinds of trade agreements with the EU.
That's so, but even within those agreements, you still have to meet the basic requirements. It can be onerous for a small. One recent example is the cannabis industry. So we have worked with a number of Jamaican medical cannabis companies to get them ready for export. So we did work with like Epicon and with Jamaica Red Moon, and currently we're working with Stiva, which is a joint venture between the UAA and Stiva International. But in order to get them into the export market for their flowers and their oils, which they export, they need to meet certain import requirements. So First, they have to meet CLA requirements, Cannabis Licensing Authority. They have to meet MOH requirements, which is our local Ministry of Health and Wellness. And then they now have to meet those country-specific requirements. So it's layers and layers of requirements, and sometimes, it can be very difficult.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that said, how can businesses reach you?
Well, we are available. They can walk in at our offices. We are at Unit 6, 80 Lady Musgrave Road in Kingston, right here. We can be reached through our telephone contact, 927-5888, and through email, info@benchmarkqms.com.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
All right.
Here's a recap of Dr. Gooden's main points. Benchmark QMS is an outsourced partner for quality food safety and related management systems. Clients engage them to check if their system is up to date with international food safety standards. A gap analysis is conducted, followed by a report. And if a business is not up to standard, Benchmark will assist them in getting their business export ready.
That's it for this episode of Money Moves, JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Visit their website at eximbankja.com and visit my website, KalilaReynolds.com, for a summary of this episode. You can click the link in the description below. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Until next time.